Welcome back to the Interlake Sports Now. I'm Josh Dugan, and thank you, as always, for taking the time to check out the show. Had a little 2-week hiatus, so we're back in action. Gonna have an action-packed show to get back in the swing of things. We'll start out with our winter sports update. Only a few of those left. Wrestling's wrapped up, swimming's wrapped up. We're gonna get to that state tournament action for wrestling, state swim meet, and of course basketball's kind of reaching that postseason time of the year. So we'll get to a little bit of prep basketball action as we gear up for the playoffs coming up soon. As always, we're going to talk a little Griz and Cats football because in college football nowadays, the news never stops flowing in. We have some transfer portal news for both our Montana colleges and then a couple little pieces of recruiting news about some local athletes who committed to play college sports at the next level and where they announced we'll be going over all that stuff. Before we dive into all the action, quick reminder, today's episode is brought to you by Nomad, voted the Flathead's best manufacturer. Nomad is a longtime supporter of our local community and sports scene, celebrating 20 years of building great careers and mission-focused custom vehicles. Nomad, a Montana-based company making a global impact. All right, thank you as always to our friends at Nomad. For more info, go to nomadgcs.com. That's nomadgcs.com for more information. All right, let's dive into that winter sports update, starting with some state tournament action. Like I said, wrestling and swimming wrapped up over the weekend. We'll start out with wrestling. They went down in Billings over the weekend, and the Flathead Braves had 3 wrestlers take home state championships, and the Glacier Wolfpack had 2 individual champs of their own, so a strong performance from our Valley teams out in Billings. Flathead Sawyer Troop took home state champ honors at heavyweight, and Anders Thompson earned the state title at 205. The duo finished the year 90-0, 90 wins, 0 losses. That is quite the accomplishment for those two. On the girls' side, Flathead's Belle Downing earned state title honors at 120. As for the Glacier boys, Nicola Coles took home state title honors at 152, and Kara Coles landed the state championship at 114 for the Glacier girls. As a team, Flathead landed in second place on the boys' side, and the girls finished 7th. The Wolfpack, meanwhile, landed in 7th place in AA, and the girls ended up in 12th. Overall, big shout out to all of our Valley wrestlers who competed at the state wrestling tournament. I always say on the show, one of the hardest sports, the amount of work that goes into it in practice and conditioning is, I played a lot of sports, did wrestling for about a month, and that's probably the toughest sport out of them all as far as conditioning goes and just hard work. I know I've heard a lot of things about hockey too. You get all the gear on, you get going. I played football, played baseball. Nothing like those wrestling conditioning practices. Quite the things. So overall, big shout out to all of our local wrestlers. The state swim meet took place in Great Falls over the weekend, and the Glacier Wolfpack boys and girls each shattered school records in the medley relay. Maggie Dean, Hannah Vornbach, Madeline McGahee, and Olivia Gibbons combined to break the year-old record on the girls' side, and the boys' relay was composed of Jude Flake, Ed McNeil, Isaac Kime, and Jack Melnick. The quartet broke a school record that had lasted over a decade in the medley relay. In total, the Wolfpack girls finished in 4th place, while the boys landed in 8th place. In the Class A and B ranks, the Whitefish girls were 4th with 41 points, and the Columbia Falls Wildcats finished 7th. On the girls' side, while the Sioux Falls boys were 3rd, and the Whitefish boys were 4th. Kudos to all of our local athletes who competed in swimming, another sport where the training is extremely hard. You get out, it's like wrestling, kind of similar. You get out there, you might only compete for a couple minutes, but all the training that goes into it is excruciating, a lot of hard work, and one of the best workouts, swimming. So can't go wrong there. If you're looking to do something new at the gym, go swim a couple laps. That'll get you going. All right, next up, some prep basketball action took place in town, starting with Glacier, who split their Friday set with Butte, with the Glacier girls picking up a 54-48 win. Reese Ramey led the way with 19 points. The Glacier boys, meanwhile, fell to Butte 71-60. Cohen Costellitz had a career-high 29 points in the loss to go with 12 rebounds for the Wolfpack. Had a double-double, strong play from Costellitz. And Hudson Lukey of Butte, he had 32 in that one of the best underclassmen in the state. I believe he was a freshman last year, and he was balling out. And I watched him at the Western AA tournament in town. Now as a sophomore, no surprise to see him putting up numbers like that. Flathead, meanwhile, dropped both of their games. Saturday, they had a doubleheader with Butte. The Bulldog girls took home a 42-31 win over the Bravettes. Kennedy Moore finished with a team-high 9 points to go with 12 rebounds. And on the boys' side, the Bulldogs held off a Flathead comeback effort to win 70-62. Lyric Ursuline led the way for Flathead with a strong performance, 28 points and 12 rebounds in the loss. On to that local recruiting news I mentioned. It's always a fun time of year, seeing where our local athletes are going to be playing at the next level. Here we go, starting out with track and field, where Glacier's Evan Barnes announced his commitment to the University of Montana. Barnes will be one of the top returning hurdlers in the state this spring and won't have to travel far down Highway 93 to Missoula to keep his track and field journey going. kudos to Barnes. Joining Barnes on the Griz track and field team, also going to be making that trek down the 93. Flathead's Brody Thornsberry, a three-sport athlete for the Braves. He finished second in the state last spring in triple jumps, and it looks like the Flathead and Glacier products will be teaming up on the track next season. So from crosstown rivals to teammates, gotta love that. That's what sports are all about. Exciting stuff, no doubt about it. Kudos to both athletes. On to the football scene, some big recruitment news where Glacier offensive lineman Henry Sellers announced his commitment to play football at the FBS level for Nevada. According to the football recruiting website 247 Sports, Sellers is a 3-star prospect. Sellers will go from a member of the Glacier Wolfpack to a member of the Nevada Wolfpack. So going to keep the theme going as the schools do share that mascots. Sellers had interest from Montana State as well as Army, where former high school teammate Jake Randina currently plays fullback, but ultimately Sellers chose Nevada. And there is a Montana connection built in with former Montana State coach Jeff Choate taking over the job at Nevada this offseason. So got to wonder if that came into play in the recruiting process. Overall, big congrats to Sellers on the opportunity to play football at the FBS level. Nevada should be a fun team on the rise. They've had some really down seasons the last couple years, but Jeff Choate is a name that people are expecting him to really rebuild that thing and get them back on track. All right, let's get to our let's wrap up our prep sports action, with this week's Poster Player of the Week, generously sponsored by your friends at Clark Auto Group here in Kalispell, featuring 3 local stores, Clark Nissan, Clark Hyundai, and Mountain Auto and Marine, home of the $29.99 oil change and the friendliest staff in town. Don't forget, every Sunday you can see Clark Auto Group's 4-page special insert in the Daily Interlake every Sunday for the latest deals, events, and the employee spotlight of the week. All right, since we were away for 2 weeks, we have 2 poster players of the week. We're going to make up some ground, starting out with Glacier's Cohen Costellitz, who we already mentioned. It's been as steady as they come for the Glacier Wolfpack basketball team and the football team the last few seasons as a go-to scorer and elite rebounder. Costellitz is a flat-out workhorse, as shown by the 29-point, 12-rebound double-double we mentioned earlier. One of those guys we were joking last year, me and Fritz, neighbor of the Daily Interlake, it's kind of like the Dennis Rodman of the Valley, just outworks his competition, a beast on the offensive boards, just one of those guys who makes his presence felt. And as the Class AA postseason is coming up in a couple weeks, look for Costellitz, to make his presence felt, especially around the basket, where he's tough to stop on the interior. Got hard to keep him off the glass, and just ultimately a great scorer in the post. Next up is Flathead's Jordan Griffin. The sophomore has had a strong start to his varsity career. He's the Braves' second leading scorer right now behind Lyric Ursland, who we also mentioned earlier. Griffin sits right outside the top 10 scorers in all of Western AA and looks to be a key part of the Braves' basketball and football programs over the next few seasons. I believe he got some action at running back this year on the football field, play a little defense as well. So, name to remember, Jordan Griffin, who as an underclassman is making an impact for the Braves' basketball program. So that'll do it for this week's Poster Player of the Week, presented by Clark Auto Group. Thank you again to our friends at Clark Auto Group here in Kalispell for the support. Remember, you can stay up to date with the latest deals and events from Clark Auto Group by checking out their 4-page insert in the Sunday edition of the Daily Interlake. All right, let's round this thing out with a little Griz and Cats football transfer portal news. It feels like college football is the gift that keeps on giving. There's always something in the news with this sport nowadays. It just never ends. The battle to be the best, especially here in the Treasure State, it means a lot to the Bobcats and Grizzlies football program. So they're always looking to shake things up and add some new talent. We'll start out with the Bobcats, who did shake things up and add some great talent. We spoke earlier about how Bobcats have been very quiet in the portal. I was kind of surprised. They added a nice tight end from Maine, Rohan Jones, but now they brought in 2020 Montana Gatorade Player of the Year offensive lineman Dylan Rollins. He went to Missoula Sentinel and then went on to BYU, and now he's hit the portal, and he'll be coming back to the Treasure State and following his father's footsteps, who played for the Bobcats in the 90s. Rollins is a good get, former Gatorade Player of the Year in the state, meaning he was the top football player in the state. Joining Rollins via the portal, our former Washington State D lineman Alec Eckert, who played prep ball in Lewistown, Idaho, and joining him on the offensive line, Rollins that is, will be Samora Ezekiel, who played the last 2 seasons in the FBS for North Texas. All great moves for the Bobcats. They lost some key players on the offensive and defensive lines to the portal. So those are guys that are going to be tough to replace, but these players, this trio should really help retool. And based on the talent, Montana State already has, it seems like they're going to be able to pick up where they left off, and bringing in guys like Ezekiel, Eckert, and the Montana product Rollins will really help. So for the Griz, they made a lot of big splashes early on in the portal, kind of the opposite of the Bobcats, where They kind of really went after it. They brought in 8 transfers right off the bat, and now they've added 2 more to kind of round out their transfer portal class as of now. Starting with safety Krishawn Gordon, who earned solid playing time with the Fresno Bulldogs last year. Gordon had 22 tackles and 1 sack, so he should be a guy ready to come in and compete for a job from day one. Played last year with new Griz quarterback Logan Fife, who will also be competing for the starting quarterback job, so a little Fresno State to Montana Grizzlies connection there. The Griz also added kicker and punter Ty Morrison, who played the last 2 years at the junior college level for the College of the Canyons in California. With Coach Houck's experience on special teams, you know he's always looking for good talent in the kicking room, add depth to that group, so we'll keep an eye out on what kind of impact Morrison may have, or if he's a guy who's more of a project for a couple years down the stretch. But you know Coach Houck's always looking for talent at that position. Speaking of Coach Houck, one last piece of college football news, and then we'll kind of round the show out. Coach Houck actually signed a 3-year extension. This was about 2 weeks ago. Like I said, we've been gone for 2 weeks, but signed a 3-year extension to stay on as the man running the show for the Grizzlies. Gotta like the move. He's the winningest football coach in program history. He's the winningest coach in Big Sky history. And after leading the Grizzlies to their first FCS title appearance since 2009, the extension was definitely well-deserved, especially after he faced some real criticism early in the 2023 season. Really overcame that, dug deep, made it all the way to the title game, rattled off like 10 wins in a row. So excited to see what Coach Houck does, especially with this new incoming recruiting class with so much good talent in the transfer portal and a lot of key players returning. So the Griz are in a position to succeed from day one next year, no doubt about that. And the Bobcats, with these moves they've been making, will likely be right there as well. On that note, that'll do it for this week's Interleague Sports Now. Thank you, as always, to our friends at Nomad, GCS, and Clark Auto Group for the support. And thank you, as always, to everyone watching or listening at home. Thank you for taking the time to check out the show. I'm Josh Dugan, and I'm out.